So, so today is a very special day because I've got a very special person, who is joining us. He's not a special because he's a human being, obviously not. He's a special because he's an inspiration to a lot of entrepreneurs, not only in Tamil Nadu, but across India. He has built a business with perseverance, with patience. He has occupied very senior level roles in his past career as well. A seasoned technology entrepreneur and a business leader with nearly 3 decades of experience across enterprise technology, BPM, and digital transformation. He's none other than the CEO of Eone Technologies, which is helping enterprises modernize legacy systems and build scalable applications using low-code platforms. Prior to founding Eone, he held senior level roles at Tech Mahindra, driving large-scale digital and process transformation initiatives globally. His career spans architecture, enterprise platform, and strategic technology leadership across global organizations. Welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us and taking out time.
Thank you, Rishikesh. Really appreciate your time too.
Sir, the first question that we have is that, when we talk about any company, so every company has a beginning, which is shaped by a specific challenge or insight which an entrepreneur identifies. Even has built a reputation around helping enterprises accelerate digital transformation through low-code development and modern application platforms. So to start the conversation, it would be interesting to understand the personal motivation behind the company's creation. What inspired you to start Eone Technologies? Was there a particular gap that you observed, sir? Perhaps the slow pace of traditional software development or difficulty enterprises face in modernizing their systems. What problem were you determined to solve when you started the company?
Okay. Thank you, Rishikesh. Good question to start from a podcast perspective. I originally I come from a very humble background, meaning like my dad started his life with 2 meals a day, right? So this was like 50 years before, if I have to put it in some context, right? So from there, in 50 years, my dad has crossed multiple journeys, and I am here where I am. So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Okay, I always wanted to create an identity for myself and for my dad too. Okay, and my dad was also of that nature. Okay, so which is what we always used to discuss. I come from a place called Nanganallur in Chennai, where me and my dad used to sit on a, we call it in Tamil as Thinnai. Okay, this is like 20, 30 years before, and every night we kind of talk on the same topic, for hours together, sitting on the tinai and talking about what do we do, how do we do, and how do we achieve what we want to achieve in life, etc. Right? So that always was there in my mind. I started my career in Thailand and Singapore. So I wanted to start a company long back, in the late 19s and early 2000, when the dot-com was very big. Okay, but then I couldn't do, in fact, to start, and then I continued my corporate career. But one day my dad got ill, and he passed away. And before that, all my dad's life, he was struggling a lot, and then he wanted to do something after his retirement, but unfortunately, in the next during that 1 or 2 years after retirement, he got ill, and he passed away. So that was bugging me, right? So he had slogged so much, and he had a dream, but unfortunately he pushed his dream to end, and he couldn't see. So, and at one point in time, and early 2010s, I had a health problem, and a major health problem, and I thought that this is the time I either do, or I leave this world, right? So so that's when I decided that I will get into the entrepreneurial journey and see the outcome. So that is the first trigger, I would say. Having said that, I started my career in a very non-risky fashion, I would say. I started my company with zero investment. Trust me, zero capital. The entire journey was, putting my effort, converting my effort into money, and putting that money back into the organization, and I kept building that. So this is one part of the journey, and the second part is like, what is that? I wanted to see or make a change. Right? So the second part, comes in from a different perspectives. During like 2014, I started. Around 2019-20, gained a lot of experience. I was very cash positive, and I was doing well in my business. And I thought, I should do something from a organization perspective, creating a services organization perspective. And one gap that if I felt was customers were spending a lot of time unproductive time building applications through high code. Okay, so that's when I saw OutSystems, and then I thought that OutSystems is the product through which we'll be able to provide high productive application building capabilities to the large corporate customers. So that's how I got into this practice, and today we are one of the leading OutSystems practices in India and also globally.
Yes. And that story about the father that you told, sir, it kind of reminded me of APJ Abdul Kalam. I met so many entrepreneurs. Like, there is something hidden, from the childhood that kind of comes out in a positive way, obviously. And do you also believe, sir, more, the tougher is the childhood, the better a person begins in kind of, handling the problems which come during entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. In fact, I studied in a school called Prince Matriculation School
Yes.
in Nanganallur, where you get beaten for every other thing, right? So that's long back. These days it's very different, but those days it was kind of acceptable. And we were kind of, I wouldn't treat it like terrorized, but we would be like that. Okay. And we would get our things done on time. We wouldn't postpone, we wouldn't procrastinate, because otherwise you'll get beaten, right? And so a very strict school. So there, you kind of learn that grit and determination,
Yes.
right? Come what may, you have to complete your homework. Come what may, you have to clear your exam. You have to get pass mark. You have to get more than 60, 70, whatever, right? So that you are being driven, and you get used to that, and you don't fear to work hard.
Yes.
And that perseverance, grit and determination has come into me, and which is what you were saying, that about the perseverance, right? Looking at my profile,
Yes.
and I totally agree with you. Entrepreneurship is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? It's a marathon. It's not easy. Marathon, from a life perspective, is not easy, and for which you need that grit and determination and perseverance. And I think my school has taught me, plus, the kind of upbringing,
Yes.
my dad, right? So he used to work in airport, okay, and there I used to work in shifts. Those days, it will be like morning shift, night shift, and then there will be a day off, and then another, that kind of a roster kind of a thing. He used to work for 36 hours to 72 hours non-stop. So he used to, from Chennai airport, he will go to my hometown, when there is a off, and then he will go do agriculture and come back. Okay, and then he'll go back to his office. So I have seen my dad, working very hard to bring us to a stage. So yeah, I think that's kind of.
Yeah. I got
Thank
it.
you.
I get that
Yeah.
emotions. Sir, when we talk, see, many of the organizations today, they talk about digital transformation a lot, but the reality inside enterprises is often very different. You have legacy systems, fragmented processes, long development cycles, which continue to slow the innovation, basically. So, from your experience, working with multiple organizations across industries, what do you see as a real struggle enterprise faces when trying to modernize their technology stack?
Okay. I will kind of, would like to give a two-pronged answer.
Yeah.
Okay. One is, where enterprises struggle, like entrepreneurship or small businesses or medium businesses, where do they struggle as an organization? Okay. That's one part. And the second part is, I'll give an answer to your question. Okay. On the first part, I think I will give it as 3C. Okay. Cash, collection, and clients. So these 3 C's are very important. If you don't have one of the C, okay, as an enterprise, we will struggle. As an entrepreneur, we will struggle. Cash is the king. Before, to get the cash, you need to have the clients. To
Yes.
have clients, you need to have some connections,
Yes.
right? So unless and until an entrepreneur has a view to either build, or he has few connections based on which he can build, I think then people should start, and then they should focus on making cash. Okay, businesses can survive only when they have, only when they make profitable cash into their, we in Tamil we call it as galla.
Yes.
In galla we have to have money,
Yes.
right? So you see this, small time shop owners, they'll make sure that whatever they do, it's profitable. And I'm trying to be profitable, but that's a bit of a struggle. It's a struggle between growth and profitability always. So this is one part. And the second part is, large enterprises, from our clients perspective, right? So this question is a big wedded question, I would say. because IT has been into has been into this world almost like 40-50 years before, right? So automation has stepped into the organizations long back. So 40-50 years back, automation means building an application using C language, C++ language. At that point in time, customers had that technology, so they had to build that using that, right? And slowly, when things moved from that to three-tier architecture, they had technologies like .NET and
Yes.
MVC kind of architectures,
Yes.
and people had products coming into picture like Visual Basic, Power Builder, etc. All these products, right? They were bringing some efficiency into the system,
Yes.
and the time to market for customers is the key. And if they have to reach the market quickly, then they need to adopt to the current technology, right?
Yes.
After this this kind of Visual Basic kind of technology, internet came into, telephony came into, smartphones came in. The way companies do business
Yes.
has drastically changed. The technology has made that possible, and if the businesses has to strive,
Yes.
okay, then they have to adopt the technologies. So what it means is, starting from C language
Yes.
to the current era of AI, you need to
Yes.
adopt these different technology, otherwise business won't exist.
Yes.
At the same time, it is not easy to change the technology just like that. This is like you go to a mechanic,
Yes.
and then the mechanic will charge you to fix the engine, like say 1,000 rupees.
Yes.
And then you go to a doctor and you ask him to fix your heart, he will charge you 1 crore rupees, for example, right? So the difference is, the doctor is changing which is running.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a standstill thing, right?
Yes.
So similarly, IT organizations, if they have to change, they are not changing that is not there. They
Hmm.
are changing that is some that is running, that is something running currently doing something to their end customers. So C application is doing something to some customers,
Yes.
in some region. They cannot just like that, plug and play or pull it back, pull it down, etc. It's not possible. So you need to, so that change is very, very difficult. And, and as organizations start building the C++, different type of technologies, and all these technologies has to, coexist. And for coexisting, a lot of technologies came in terms of integrations, etc.
Hmm.
at different levels like application layer, data layer, etc., which made this a coexistence of multiple technologies into the organization, which made the customers to be more, it made it easy for customers to have different types of technologies.
Yeah.
Okay. So having said that, whatever newer technologies that can come, companies will have, all these legacy technologies.
Yes.
That is absolutely, that is there. But at the same time, companies cannot just stay on with the legacy technologies.
Hmm.
So it's like procrastinating your problem.
Hmm.
Okay. So the more you procrastinate a problem,
Hmm.
the more the problem becomes.
Yes.
Right? So that's a simple rule, like as in life. So organizations should strive to fix the problem and move on. But maybe they will take some time. But that is where organizations like us come into picture, and we help in fixing that. So that's where our expertise comes in. Yeah.
Sir, is it primarily a technology problem, or is a mindset challenge also, or sometimes related to organizational structure? Also, like, can you share some patterns where you have consistently observed when companies attempt to move towards, modern application development?
I think it's a combination. It's a classic. Every consultant will give this classic answer to you. Like it's a combination of problems. But what I say is a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, meaning every organization, if you see, it consists of people, process, and technology.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So every problem will be because of all these three. So you cannot get a problem done by fixing one. And the solution is not with one. The solution has to be among all the three: people, process, and technology.
Yes.
Okay. That's how it is. So in not only like when one human being interacts with another, do you know what comes into it as politics?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that being the case, and having said that, in a large organization, when different people come in with different agendas,
Hmm.
there will be huge amount of politics that will surface.
Yes.
So that has to be handled. Some will see that as a threat, some will see that as an opportunity, and some will see that as a risk.
Yes.
When a new technology is coming in and when a new technology is being implemented, so all this will come into play. So
Yes.
we need to handle all of that.
Right. It can be taken as a threat, opportunity, or risk.
So people within an organization will see that in different form and shape. So based on their views. Okay, so any good would be conceived as good as well as bad. Okay, so that's where when I used to work for TechM, I used to do consulting to large global customers, and one of the things that we take care of is change management. So that change management is very very important, and we take care of that. And in our organization, when we are implementing solutions, one of the key things that we handle with customers is also the change management.
Yes.
Okay, when we implement, we make sure that people in the floor, across the floor, all people across the floor will use. We kind of do a workshop. We'll bring all consumers into a hall and we'll do a couple of workshops. We'll showcase to them. We'll make them use that, and then we'll take feedbacks, etc., etc.
And sir, in the recent years, there's a lot of buzz going around low-code platforms, and which have emerged as a powerful alternative to traditional software development models. And these platforms kind of promise faster development cycles, improved collaboration, and reduced technical complexity. Your company has built a very strong expertise around the OutSystems ecosystem, which is widely used for building enterprise-grade applications rapidly. So, what convinced you that low code was the future of enterprise application development? And why did you choose OutSystems as a strategic platform?
Okay, let me kind of step back,
Yeah.
like 3-4 decades back. Okay, so the main benefit or core benefit or advantage of IT is when you automate. When I say automate, from manual process. So whatever people were doing, human beings were doing, those tasks had to be automated. So automation is key. So when you automate, we call it, in the process parlance as STP, straight through process. Okay, so when you implement a process using technology, you want to make sure that all your tasks happen in STP mode.
Yes.
Okay, so that that automation becomes completely successful and it is highly reliable. So there is a proverb which says to err is human. As human beings, we all will make mistakes,
Yes.
and that mistakes sometimes could become very costly.
Hmm.
Okay, so that is where the IT automation came into play, which made sure that there are no errors. Okay, so that's where we started our IT journey. So many decades back, right? So
Yes.
that's where we started. So now over the like starting from say 60s, 70s, 80s to early 2000, this automation was made possible. Data entry, workflows, approvals, rules based decision making, etc., came into the picture, right? But what was happening was the cost of the implementations were going up and up and up. Okay, and so large enterprises were facing two major problems. One is the quality of people.
Yes.
Okay, and because of which the quality of code. Okay, and the skill level of the people. Okay, there are a lot of requirements that need to be handled, but the customer started feeling the dearth of architect level people. So you need to have strong architect when you're building an application.
Yes.
Okay, which that architect will handle the non-functional aspects or non-functional requirements of an enterprise, like scalability, reliability, or whatever, all these non-functional security aspects, etc. The architect level people will handle, but you can't find so many architects who will be able to build applications the way the organizations want.
Yes.
Okay, so it became very cumbersome. So the repeatability wasn't there, and that was one thing, and because of which the time to market was very long. People started feeling that as long because of that technology innovation. Like for example, the internet came into picture, mobile technology came into picture, smartphones came into picture, cloud came into picture. So the businesses that were running in shop floor, we were able to move from shop floor to the cloud. We were able to take the products into from shelf to the cloud.
Yes.
Okay, a small kirana shop owner, can sell to a customer who is in Paris,
Yes.
right? So that was made possible, and the customer in a small village in Tamil Nadu is will be able to buy a
Yes.
product from Washington
Yeah.
through his mobile. So internet kind of spread everywhere, right? So the speed in which the technological change is happening and
Mm,
the kind of the speed in which the businesses were happening were
mm,
very fast, but the customers were not able to deliver applications or build applications as fast as the technology was changing. Okay, so which is where
mm.
platform like OutSystems or
Yes.
OutSystems as a platform was a boon to customer.
Yes.
Okay, so OutSystems is such a beautiful platform. OutSystems is such a robust platform, and if you look at the Gartner's quadrant, they are at the top.
Yeah.
Okay, and this product has been in the market for more than 2 decades. Very proven, solid product. Okay, and the ability to learn. The speed in which one can learn is very, very fast. Okay,
Mm,
they'll be able to quickly learn the technology.
mm.
Okay, so with all of that benefits, customers were able to build applications faster. But the technology is changing even more faster. From low code now it is kind of moving into agent builders.
Yes.
Today we are into agent building more than low code. Okay, because of AI, courtesy of AI, I would say blessings of AI.
Mm.
Customers can build applications even more faster, even without tools like OutSystems, okay, or low code tools. But OutSystems, we are our positioning is changing from low code to agent building. Okay,
Yes.
we are kind of moving from there from low code to agent building, and OutSystems is moving into the magic quadrant, Gartner quadrants, the leadership quadrant, and it's OutSystems one of the strongest AI platform today in the in the globe, and through OutSystems we can build agents through which we'll be able to build workflow, non-workflow based applications where humans as well as non-humans called agents can work together and provide value to our consumers. So we have built a product called the Smart Deny,
Mm,
through which we will be able to identify whether a prospect for loan
mm,
is eligible for a loan in less than 120 seconds. So
mm.
we have built an agent, and that agent will automatically scan through your Aadhaar card, PAN card, bank statements, all of that, and then will in 120 seconds it will tell whether, buddy, you are eligible for
Yes.
loan or not. And if you have to be eligible for loan, then please do ABC.
Yes.
And this system we have built using agent workbench of OutSystems.
This is nice, sir.
Yeah.
And also, another that's kind of used these days, artificial intelligence. Nearly every company is talking around AI, but there is a gap between hype and practical implementation. So, from your work that you do with the enterprises, where do you actually see the real adoption of AI happening today? And do these companies are using AI in meaningful ways to improve operations, decision making experience of the customers, or are many organizations still experimenting without clear business outcomes?
Okay. I don't know why, even today, people are kind of questioning this. Okay.
Hmm.
AI is not hype. Trust me, AI is reality.
Yes.
Okay. We have already gone into the AI world. Okay. So today, I use AI in my day-to-day work. Really, I use ChatGPT. I am creating a Word document.
Yes.
I'm creating an Excel. I'm giving the Excel to ChatGPT and asking it to bring insights. There was a time when I asked Saranya to build a PPT, and she was taking like few hours, and I was getting agitated. And then I asked ChatGPT. It gave me in 2 minutes. You can ask her. Okay, so
Yes.
that's the power of AI. So this is from a consumer angle, right? And your question was from enterprises.
Yes.
So as I told you, AI is not hype. AI is reality. Okay.
Mm,
And large organizations have realized that.
mm.
And they've started investing their time, effort, and money in building AI value. But having said that, the cost of AI, any technology when it gets invented, the cost of it is always high. Okay, so there is an hesitance whether you want to buy. Like for example, in early 2000, I bought a Panasonic phone. It costed me like few hundred Singapore dollars. Okay. And in early or late 2000, 2008, 2009, I bought an iPhone and iPad. It was very expensive, almost like 1,000 Australian dollars. Right. So, and the amount of features that had when you compare now is, so drastically different. But slowly people started adopting. Okay. iPhone killed Nokia. So,
Yes.
we can't close our eyes and think that AI is hype. It is reality. Having said that, large enterprises, they have realized, but the cost of it is bit of a hindrance. They're little reluctant. They aren't sure how much it is going to cost, whether it is going to give them the cost benefit.
Yes.
Why would organizations spend money? Only when they are able to make money, they'll spend money.
Yes.
Okay, they wouldn't spend money for the sake of it. They would spend only when they know that they're able to make money. So that part is where it's kind of a question to all of us. But large organizations, I'm talking to people, they say that they are already implementing, and we are already implementing to organizations. Yes, point solutions. I was telling you, right, that about the banking part. So similarly, like we have created an assistant teacher where we are building a solution for a school.
Yes.
Where we have created an AI assistant teacher, to which the students can ask clarifications,
Yes.
and this assistant teacher will work 24/7. Okay, and any doubts at any point in time, the student can ask. Okay, so we are going to release this product very soon. It's called One School, which we have built using OutSystems and OutSystems agent workbench. So, so the AI is there. It's already inside. But the cost aspect is where, organizations, would want to make a clear decision whether it will make cost benefit analysis. There are 100 things that you can do, but, 90 things can cost you more, 10 things can be easy.
Yes.
Or cost less, right? So the people will start adopting based on the cost benefit analysis, but the technology is real, the benefit is real.
So thank you so much for busting this thing, sir. Many of the organizations, they kind of operate on legacy platforms that were built for years, and we already kind of discussed a bit around that. Replacing this system can be complex, expensive, and risky. And as you mentioned, they're moving systems, so it's kind of difficult. Your team works with enterprises to modernize their application landscape and move towards a scalable, future-ready system. So what approach do you typically follow to transition companies from legacy systems to modern applications? And how do you balance speed, reliability, and minimal disruption to the business operations?
Okay. See, 20, 30 years before, when you have to modernize, the model that we follow is called reverse engineering. Okay, so you run the application, you run a COBOL application as a user, and because there wouldn't be documentation. Okay, you have to run as a user, different types of users, and you have to understand how that is functioning, and you have to understand the functional aspects of the application, and you have to understand how the data is getting stored, how the relationship of data is there, etc., etc. This is called reverse engineering. So you, as a software engineer, you go to a customer place and do reverse engineering and create a documentation and give the documentation to the developer, and the developer will rebuild it. And this is quite time consuming, right? It's not easy. It is very time consuming. And today, 30 years before, they had like 10 applications. As I told you beginning, it's very natural for large organizations to procrastinate because things are working.
Yes.
There are only few things that they can concentrate at any point in time. They cannot concentrate on everything. It's very natural. So always there will be some arrears in their books that they need to clear. And to do a reverse engineering, it is not easy. So it is very time consuming. And now with all the AI, in fact, in OutSystems, we have tools through which you feed a Java application. OutSystems will create you application. Convert the application into a document, and we give the document to a tool in OutSystems called AI Mentor. And AI Mentor will throw a pre-built application, and then you can change that. So all this, in couple of days or weeks, you will be able to bring it to a 0.1 version. and from there you can make some changes.
Yes.
So OutSystems as a technology, can do wonders.
Yes. And sir, what's your view on like many of the enterprises still rely on legacy technologies like IBM Lotus Notes, which were
There are organizations, organizations cannot get rid of, not only, Lotus Notes, even Power Builder, Visual Basic, Fox Pro, whatnot.
yes,
AS400, mainframe technologies, COBOL, still large customers are using because it's like, it's like a, like a dark thing.
yes,
When you touch it, it's a bomb. People are not, willing to take that risk.
yes,
And it would be doing very very critical things, mission critical things. You don't want to change that so
yes,
easily. But having said that, in yesteryears it was difficult. But now with all the AI functionalities and the tools like OutSystems, we as a company, Eone Technologies, will be able to make that possible. In the next 5-10 years, any customers who we service, we can convert all their legacy into a shiny AI platform.
yes. And that is not gonna be possible with a plug and play model, but it requires companies like Eone Technologies who consult and kind of, get that
Correct.
thing done.
Correct. Not just product alone cannot do.
Yes.
Customers should have partners like us, not only us, like us, who can, use tools like OutSystems and, make things possible.
Yes.
So it's not just technology, right? You sit with the customer, understand the pain point of customer, accordingly you
Yes.
structure the delivery aspect. It's not easy.
Sir, also we see the technology companies today are increasingly expected to play a broader role in the society. And even is one of that. So you have been actively active inside community initiatives, corporate social responsibility efforts. Could you tell us about the philosophy behind your CSR initiatives?
Okay. Very interesting. And thank you for asking this question. I think it's very important. Okay. In Tamil, we call it as vidai, seed. The meaning of that is seed. So I was telling you again about my dad, right? He was in a very remote village. He was like about maybe like 10, 12 years old. And those days there were no schools. It was called Thinnai Pallikudam.
Hmm.
Okay. And
Was it like temple, sir? Temple.
not temple. No, on the streets of village. Okay,
What
there
it?
will be, this, it's like seating arrangement,
Yes.
and the small kids will come and sit, and there will be maybe one teacher for one village or 2 3 villages. Maybe like 10 students will there and will be there, and they will study.
Yes.
Okay, with a small slate and a chalk piece.
Yes.
That's the kind of a thing. And right, Tamil Nadu, we focus heavily on education. We
Yes.
believe that education is everything. Okay.
Yes.
So when he was in that village, right, for some reason maybe he was little sharp. I don't know. So there was a father, a Christian father, who happened to see him
Yes.
and who spotted him. So who spotted him, and for and he it was small gesture, I would say. He felt that this guy has some spark. So he made my dad to go to a place called Arakono. Okay, that's it's a small town, and there they had a school, a government school, where
Hmm.
he had put him, and he would get the hostel also, and on top of it he would get food also for free. So all that encouraged him to move from his village to that
Hmm.
place, and there he studied.
Hmm.
And he completed his 10th, and he completed his PUC. It's called PUC. Okay, which got him a job in military, and then he got a job in airport. And my mom and dad made us educate. We
Yeah.
studied in a convent school, and today I'm talking to you.
Yes.
And if you ask me, you and I are conversing now, and you're asking this question, and
Oh.
I'm giving this answer is because of that
Hmm.
father who spotted that small kid. So I call it as Vidai, the
Yeah.
seed. So I think I know I'm doing well, reasonably well, with all God's blessing. So, and I think that I should seed, wherever possible, a small thing, right? I don't know. Her name is Ashita.
Ah.
She has done her education in Harvard. In fact, today morning I happened to just coincidentally saw that.
Hmm.
Okay, she is a tribal girl. Her mother and her parents were from a industry called BD. BD means the tobacco cigarette, right? So they were into that this one, and there, she from that place, she is now an Harvard educated, woman. She is I think one of the very popular TEDx speaker, I believe. And that girl was saying that she is here now today because in her village there is a small library, and she used to go to that library, and that librarian spotted her, and he told her to apply to this Ashoka University fellowship,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she was resisting, but that guy pushed her to apply, and she applied. She got 100% scholarship, and after that she worked for some time, and then someone pushed her to apply to Harvard. She studied there. Okay, and she's now returned, and when she went into Ashoka University, she didn't even know ABC. She only knew in Tamil, but then she worked on, right? So what I mean to say is this kind of a thing is very important, right? So
Yes.
wherever possible, how much ever possible, we wanted to do this small things, which at some point in time will help someone. So keeping that in mind, we kind of focus on 3, 4 activities.
Yes.
We focus on food. We provide 75 meals every week. We focus on education. I have partnered with an organization called Kalvi 40. Through that, our Kalvi 40, through them using their technology, we are supporting 3 schools, almost like 400, 500 students we are supporting. Okay, where we kind of provide a coordinator, teacher coordinator, and a TV, and that will have an internet connection which will give them the language skills, life skills, etc. And we also sponsor 2 kids, and I am also part of Rotary, and through Rotary, we on and off we give things like cycles, okay, etc. And every month we cut a we go to an orphanage and we cut a cake, and we make them happy. And third thing that we do is life saving activity, which is like blood donation. So far, we have collected almost like 200 units of blood. Okay, so which is like probably that would save arithmetically 600 lives. So it's priceless.
Yes.
So we do all of that, and from an OutSystem perspective also, we have delivered hundreds of components for free into OutSystems Forge marketplace. So I think giving is very important to each of us. It's important. It's not just because this podcast I'm saying it.
Yes.
Seriously, I believe it, and I am kind of a person who thinks that it's important we give back to the society. And along with that, from an environment perspective, we also plant trees. Not also, we plant trees every month. We take that an activity. Maybe like 3, 4 months in a year we don't do because of rains and other things. But
Yes.
otherwise, almost like 7, 8 months in a year, we kind of plant 30, 40 trees a month. So far we have planted 1,000+ trees, I would say. Yeah. So it is something that we would like to give back.
Sir, when I was listening to you, it kind of reminded me like one day I was going from Bangalore to Chennai. I was driving and I stopped at a small dhaba kind of, restaurant, very small. Like I went inside and it was in Tamil Nadu. And there was a mother, father, and there was a small, daughter of theirs. She was, sitting silently at a corner while the mother was making tea and selling, and she was reading something. Like, the kind of the aspiration in her eyes, it kind of, it's very relatable, sir, because most of us kind of came from a very middle class low background, and that is where people like you, who are doing such kind of an initiative, I seriously feel that those kind of a girls, those kind of boys also, imagine, sir, father and mother is running a tea shop, is still they are so sensible enough that they have given this kind of culture to their kids, that they're studying, they're trying to make it big. That is what India needs, sir, right now. And this incident actually, kind of makes us so happy. Like, whatever the condition may be, if a person or the parents, kind of think that they have to make something big out of their children, resources are never a constraint. And time and again, it has been proven. It was APJ Abdul Kalam, it was you, who have kind of risen from nowhere.
After APG, don't put my name.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of talking, kind of talking about the spectrum, sir, basically.
Yeah.
So everywhere, like, last week I was in Udaipur. I met one very senior person. He also has kind of risen from nowhere, and now he has 6 manufacturing plants running. When you listen to them, it inspires you like anything, sir. Sir, a particularly, meaningful aspect of your organization is also the effort that you take to create opportunities for women who have taken career breaks. Why is it important for you to actively create pathways for women to restart their career? And what kind of an impact does it create for organizations?
I think very important question. Let me read a small poem.
Yes.
Okay, Bharadiyar. It's a Tamil poem. Okay,
Yes.
small. What it means is, this poet Bharadiyar has, we call Dirgadarasi. He has foreseen this.
Hmm.
Okay, and he has forethought that women would one day lead the world. Okay, be it in education, be it in legal aspects, be it in any field, women are going to lead. So they have, from law, from oppression, women has come. Okay, and I think especially, I don't know much about other parts of the country, but
Yes.
Tamil Nadu,
Hmm.
I can bet that Tamil women, Tamil moms focus heavily on education, including my mom.
Yes.
So women would focus heavily on education. And in the last 30 years, so when I graduated, along with me, a lot of girls got graduated.
Hmm.
So the society would ask me, a question that, where are you joining? Where are you working after my graduation?
Hmm.
But my girls, the other girls, they would question like, when are you getting married? So this was the question like 30 years before.
Hmm.
But today, when my daughter, after
Yes.
graduation, people aren't going to ask when she's getting married. They're going to ask, when are you, where are you joining? When are you going to work?
When
What
is
is
she
it?
going to join Eone Technologies?
She is into architecture anyway. So, and my younger one is
Then,
into
sir, you have to start a subsidiary company.
I know. So we will, something. Yeah.
Mm.
So what I mean to say is, today that question has changed. So, we have moved a long way.
Hmm.
Where we thought it was enough to get educated.
Hmm.
Now we are like, we wanted, to work, and we want our women to work, etc. Right.
Yes.
So that's where we are in now. But what is happening is, in real life, for all practical reasons, okay, no, there is no, it is not a, it's not any problem. But for
Hmm.
all natural reasons, if you consider a family, both of them cannot, like
Yes.
run,
Huh.
right? We need to have one person doing the running and one person
Yes.
taking care of the family, and it's very important. Right?
Yes.
For many obvious physiological reasons or natural reasons, women end up taking that breaks when they get into family way. They ought to take break, because it is kind of, it becomes important. So whether they can continue to work without breaks, it's possible. We have all the aspects, like 6 months work, sorry, 6 months leave, etc. But still, when we have become a nuclear family these days,
Hmm.
so the support system isn't that great. So what that is making our society is, women are unable to continue the work as they envisage.
Yes.
And this career break is happening. Okay. So there is a phrase like, one woman who gets educated means the entire family will get educated.
Yes.
So that is okay. But on top of it, women should, in many family situations, women's work will make the family better.
Hmm.
That's why the some of the governmental policies of Tamil Nadu,
Yes.
where they give free bus, they give, 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees or whatever every
Yes.
month, and that money, using that money, women, they are spending it on their kids.
Yes.
When they spend on their kids, when they spend on the education, the entire society is growing. When
Yes.
they are able to travel, they are able to work. So these kind of things, like the our Tamil Nadu government focuses on,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So ability to work. So it kind of helps, I would say. So from that context, when I started the organization, what I thought was that two things, like, One is like from a business perspective, I wanted from a cost angle, at a slightly lower cost, and
Yes.
from a reliability angle, slightly better reliability.
Yes.
And at the same time, I wanted someone who is smart technically, smart mentally.
Yes.
And all this combination I got from women, especially women, who had a career break. Women, they worked in large organizations like TCS, Cognizant, etc. But because of the family reason, they had a break. So obviously, they are aptitudely, they are very good, they're very smart, and they had a break. And now I gave them an opportunity, and all of them are flourishing now. So
One of
more than
them.
40-50% of them are women in our organization.
Yes, yes, sir. That I have seen already. Like one of them has coordinated this podcast. So I know.
Correct.
Sir, you also actively get involved in industry forums and professional networks, which bring together the leaders, policymakers, and business executives. So, how does participating in these forums influence your perspective as a technology leader? And do you think that these discussions shape how you think about emerging trends?
So I told you, right? I studied in a small school in a small town. It was small town at that time called Nanganallur.
Mm.
Okay, so where we were used to memorize things. Nothing wrong in it. We were used to that. And then I did my engineering, and that was also like like reading. And then I did my EMBA from IM Bangalore.
Yes.
So there I learnt. Meaning, learning means heavy learning happens in peer learning.
Yes.
Okay, so when you hear from your peers, when you talk to your peers, you exchange ideas. Your knowledge grows exponentially. When you read from a book, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. When you
Yes.
when you learn from your peers, 1 + 1 is
11.
equal to 11. So the learning is exponential. Okay, so where when you are talking to people, your peers, you share your experience. They share their experience. Okay, so that kind of a model, right? So that's where in MBA in IM Bangalore,
Yes.
I realized that that peer learning is very very important. Made a lot of difference. It brings you that insights, that
Yes.
clarity of thinking, our ability to judge, ability to identify problems, look at solutions, etc. Right? So it's a thinking process, and this grows only in a better environment. And these forums are one such environments.
Yes.
When you go to forums, you get to meet people from
Yes.
varied industries. So you hear them, you talk to them, you listen to them. They say their problems, you say your problems. They say their solutions, you tell your solutions. Right. So that's where all this great things happen, I would say. So you are it's like a mind
Yes.
mind marriage that happens in conferences. So it's very important, and that shapes you. If I am what I am, it's because of my peers and my network.
And now, finally, sir, every technology initiative ultimately boils down to real business impact. Could you think of a specific example of a transformation project where your team helped an organization overcome a significant challenge?
We had built one application for a large enterprise, energy-based organization, energy-based enterprise, based in Texas, Houston,
Yeah.
for whom we had built a application using OutSystems to manage the inventory. Using that application, the customer was able to save $60 million a year.
60 million. Nice.
60. And this project was given an award also by a large magazine. Okay, and we were part of the team. We worked alongside with the customer and other partners, and we had built it. And seeing this kind of an impact that our work could make motivates us to do more of such things.
Yes.
So I think that's where the kick is, like seeing a small change making a big impact.
Absolutely, sir. Now, I've got one very interesting question at the end. Is that if you kind of can go back 20 years back and your father is just sitting in front of you, do you want to tell him something, which you won't have told him that time? And the other way around is that, do you do you think your father would have told you something different? Yes.
I think my dad always wanted to create a identity for himself. I think I have, created two identities, one in my hometown
Yes.
and one in Nanganallur. I created two brands in his name.
Yes, sir.
One is called Govind Gardens, that's based in Tirutani, and the other one is Govind Apartments in Nanganallur.
Yes.
So the place where we lived our childhood and the place where my dad lived in his childhood. So I've created two brands, and in fact, I'm trying to build one more in his name. So I would like to tell him that your identity has been created. So I think, and I'm sure you would feel you would feel good about it.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And thank you so much for this inspiring discussion.
Thank you.
It kind of inspires us so much. And we look forward to hosting you again, sir, on a separate set of topics. But thank you so much for taking out time.
Absolutely, Rishikesh. Very nice, talking to you, seeing you, and it was a different experience. Though it is online, I kind of feel that we were like sitting across and talking to each other, and I think maybe the body language of yours, the way you are asking question, etc. I think is making a lot of difference in the conversation that we are making. Thank you very much, Rishikesh.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.